Hi, my name is Father Charlie Bouchard, and I'm here on a bright sunny morning in St. Louis to offer you some thoughts on the readings for the 29th Sunday in Ordinary Time so that you can know something about these scriptures before you hear them at the Eucharist on Sunday. This gospel today is really kind of a perfect one for an election year because it talks about John and James asking Jesus for places both at his right and his left. So they're perfectly bipartisan, exactly what we would look for in political life. But Jesus has to remind them that this journey that they are on is not just about power and glory. He has to remind them of the baptism in which he will be baptized, about the cross, and especially about the cup that he will have to drink. And he says, are you ready to do that? And this gospel is also appropriate for us in election season because it talks about the four things that are really at the core of our elections when we cast our votes. The first two are power and authority. And of course, those are the things that politicians and candidates are looking for, and they're trying to get us to vote for them so that they can move into these positions of power and authority. But it's also about two things which candidates are not that eager to talk about, namely service and weakness. And especially the weakness part, candidates are more than willing to talk about their opponent's weakness, but they're not so willing to talk about their own weakness. And yet we need to look at that as well as their ability to serve us because, in fact, political life and political office is really about serving the people who cast their votes. Normally when we think about the cup, drinking the cup, and about the cross and about this baptism of Jesus, we think of them in spiritual ways. But I think there's also a way in which we can explore that idea, especially drinking the cup, in political terms. As we evaluate the candidates and as we prepare to cast our votes, we are committing ourselves to one vision or to one political agenda. And whether or not our candidate is elected, we're going to have to drink the cup of whatever their values and objectives are. And so we need to ask ourselves, as Christians, as Catholics, as citizens, can we drink the cup of compassion? And I mention this because of the debates in many states, including Missouri, where I am, about capital punishment. And it feels really good to give somebody what they deserve after they've committed a crime. But if we do it out of vengeance, simply to punish them, it's not a virtue and it's not admirable. We need to also be able to drink the cup of compassion and clemency, and to realize that even if somebody has violated the community's trust, that does not necessarily make us good citizens to execute them. We also have to drink the cup of solidarity. And I mention this particularly in terms of the immigration debate, because we've got an immigration problem. Both candidates acknowledge that, at least at the presidential level. But we have politicized this and we have demonized immigrants, even though virtually all of us came from immigrant families ourselves. My own family came from Canada and France. My mother was from Ireland. All of us have emigrated to this country except those who are Native Americans. And we have to drink the cup of solidarity. In other words, that is the ability to identify with and to care for people who are unlike us, either geographically or economically. And I don't underestimate the difficulty of that. It's sometimes hard. Domestically, we have to do that too because we have racial problems, many of which stem from lack of understanding. If one racial group doesn't understand and appreciate and have solidarity with the other, we're going to have this constant tension and division. We have to drink the cup of justice as well. We know that there's a huge and growing economic gap between the richest in the country and the poorest. That's not an acceptable thing for Christians. If we look at the Acts of the Apostles, we know that they very much insisted that goods had to be owned in common and shared. Now, it's not realistic to think that we're going to live like the apostles did in the first century, but we can work to help our economic system provide at least basic necessities for people who are living in poverty. And of course, we have to be mindful of global justice as well. And finally, I think we have to learn or be willing to drink the cup of truth. That's probably the hardest one of all. For instance, we are dealing in many states with debates and political rancor about transgender persons. And much of that debate is fueled by a lot of misinformation. You know, that children are being kidnapped and subjected to sex change surgeries. That's not true. Or that children are being victimized by gender ideology. That ideology may be out there, but as someone who worked in healthcare for years, I can say that's not true either. What we are concerned about are children and their parents who are suffering because of a medical condition. And we have to explore and embrace the truth about that and extend our concern and care to these children so that they get the appropriate care that they need. The other area, which is very much distorted and manipulated, and about which we need to drink that cup of truth, is the abortion debate. Now, I'm not going to presume to tell you how you should vote, but the problem we deal with here is that we tend to be absolutely black and white about this. We're either all pro-life or we're all pro-choice. Neither of those terms really have that much meaning. You know, they're just slogans. But we need to seek the real truth of it. We need to realize that abortion is a moral question. It's not behind some veil that keeps it from moral analysis. But also we need to remember that not all abortions are equal, that there are some abortions which are purely elective, may be morally wrong, although the woman who gets it may not have a lot of good choices and may be doing the best she can. We also need to recall that there are things that we call abortions which are medically necessary and which the church approves of. When we talk about abortions for fallopian or tubal pregnancies or about miscarriages, those are in a different moral category. We have to be careful that we understand these distinctions and that we drink the cup of truth in making careful decisions about our votes and our attitudes rather than just running to one side of the debate or the other. So whether you are on the left or the right in this political campaign, or whether you're somewhere in the middle, we need to accept the difficult choice that's before us. We need to embrace the cross of Christ, which means being truthful and honest. It means thinking. It means exercising political prudence when we vote and following Jesus as best we can. We embrace the cross, we embrace the baptism of Jesus, and especially we are willing to drink this cup, which we are about to do literally at the Eucharist, which we celebrate today. God bless all of you.